Okay, everyone, we're going to continue and complete our discussion on circle graphs. So this is part 2 in circle graphs. Specifically, today we're going to create a circle graph. Before we do that, I think we should review. I know we did it last time, but we should review percents very quickly. The reason I want to do that is because last time, the only type of question that you actually encountered with your homework and everything was finding a percent of a number. And today what we're going to do is we're going to actually calculate a percent. So you found a percent of a number, a certain percentage of the number. Today we're going to need to do that, and we're also going to need to find an actual percent. So let's quickly figure them both out. Remember the little proportion we can use for solving all these percent problems. You don't have to, but you can. What does percent mean? Percent means out of 100. The 100 is kind of like the whole amount. Well, there's a whole amount in percent. That's what it's entirely out of. So then the percent you got is the part out of 100 you got. So this will help you to figure out every percent problem. So let's figure out the first one right here. 10.1% of the students in the gym were eating food. Oh my gosh, Carmeli's going to freak. How many kids were eating food? So remember, we can set up our proportion, and which number can you put down right away without even thinking about it? 100 is always there. The next easiest thing to figure out is whether you know a percent or not. There's only a couple numbers in this question. What we got? We got this, 10.1%, and we've got, oh, whoops, it doesn't tell us how many students there are. It should say 89 students. 10.1% of the 89 students, just like it says 89 down here. Sorry about that. So yeah, the other number we know is that there's 89 students in the gym. All right, so again, is there one of those numbers that has a percent beside it? Yeah, right here, 10.1%. So we know that it should be 10.1 right here for our percent. So we still have this other number, the 89 students. Is that all the students in the gym or just part of the students? That's all the students. So that should go down in the whole part right here. This is what we want to find. Call it anything you want. I'll call it F for food. And we cross multiply. So we multiply 10.1 times 89. F equals 10.1 times 89. And then we're going to divide by the 100. And if you do that, you're going to get the answer 8.989. But come on, 8.989, if we do any rounding here at all, it's going to go right up to 9 students. And that makes a lot more sense. Okay, that's the type we did last day. Let's look at this, which is a new type for today. There were 89 students in the gym, again, same number of students, and 28 were playing volleyball. So those are two numbers. What percent of the kids were playing volleyball? It's another percent question. We can set up our proportion. We can put down the 100 right away because we can always put that down. Those are our two numbers. Do either of them have the percent sign beside them? No. So we don't know the percent. So we're going to put a letter here. I don't know. I'll put P for percent. Why not? Now, one of these numbers is the total and one's the part. There were 89 students in the gym. 28 were playing volleyball. Well, the total number of students was 89. So that should go down in whole. 28 should go up in part. We're ready to cross multiply. This time you're multiplying these together. So P is equal to 28 times 100, and then we're going to divide it by 89. And that'll give us our percent. And it is 31 goes 460. I'll just round it to 31.5. And don't forget your percent sign. There you go. 31.5% of the kids were playing volleyball. The rest are probably throwing basketballs around. All right, so we're going to create a circle graph. There's 4 steps. Let's do one step at a time. So actually, let's go to our question first. It says, students were asked how they got to school that morning. Here are the results. So some kids were driven to school by someone else, by a parent, by a friend, a neighbor, whatever. Then there was a few lucky people who drove themselves. 3 people drove themselves. Okay, 88 of them walked, 64 took the bus, and 8 smart people took the bike. Gotta love those people. So what is the first thing we need to do in order to make a circle graph? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to find, so I'll go down here, we have to find the percent for each category. So that is like what we just did right here. We're going to be calculating a whole bunch of percents. So let's start with the first one here. And in fact, let's write in percent of people is what we need to find. So for the car driven by someone else, we know there's 57 people. Now, let's set up our proportion. I'll set it up over here. I'm going to kind of squish it in. So we can always put 100 in here. Do we know the percent? No, that's what we're trying to find. So I'll put n for the unknown here. Now this 57, is that all the people or only part of the people? That's only part of the people, right? There's also these people and these people and these people. So that's a part, so that goes up here. So what goes down here? We can't put another letter. We have to know this number. This is the whole number of people. Oh, well, this is the next thing we need to know. We need to know the total number of people, right? There's these people and these people and these people. We got to add them all up and get a value right here. This is really important that we do this. So you can also just use a calculator. That's fine. So that's our total. That's our whole amount. So I can put that in here, 220. So now to get the percent of people who were driven in a car by someone else, we have our part, we have our whole, we put the 100, we cross multiply. So what are we going to do? We're going to multiply 57 times 100 and then divide by 220. And let's round this to one decimal place for all of them. So I get 25.9% for this one. All right, let's go to the next one. So I want you to think about this. I don't really want to write this down like 6 times here or 5 times, whatever. Let's see what changes. So if we were to do this again, the 100 would stay the same, right? You always put 100 down. You don't know the percent in this one, so this would stay the same. What else would stay the same? The whole stays the same, so this is staying the same. The only thing that's changing is the 57, right? It's not going to be 57 anymore, because now we're talking about people who drove themselves, and the part in that case is 3. So this number becomes 3. So then down here, we don't have the 57 here anymore. We have the 3 here. So maybe what I'll actually do is in this one, I'm going to highlight the 3. That's the only number that's changing, right? So in this case, it's going to be 3 times 100 divided by 220, which is 1.36, but I'm going to put 1.4%. So for the next one, it's 88. So, don't bother with all this because all that's going to happen is this 3 is going to change to an 88. So that's now 88 there. So we have 88 times 100 divided by 220, which equals exactly 40%. Very nice. The next one's 64. So that 64 needs to go in here. I know it's becoming very messy, but you get 64 times 100 divided by 220. And that gives you 29.1%. And finally, we have the 8. So we put 8 in here. Let me use a different color so we can actually see it. You put 8 in here. You have 8 times 100 divided by 220. That gives you 3.63, so it stays at 3.6 when we round. Should we bother with the total? Yeah, I would actually say we should. Because when you add all these percentages up, what should you get? You should get very close to 100. It might not be exactly 100, and we talked about this last time. It's because of rounding, but you better be between like 99.5 and 100.5. So let's see what happens when I add them all up. Go into the calculator here. And it actually ends up at exactly 100%, which is very reassuring. Okay, so we have our percents. What's the last column? What do we do now? Well, now we got to figure out how big do we make each piece of the pie, right? So obviously the one that is 40%, the walking 40%, is going to be bigger, a lot bigger than the one that's the car being driven by self. But how much bigger? So we have to, for step 2, we've already figured out the percentages. Now we have to figure out the sector angle for each category. And what's important here is you remember there are 360 degrees in a whole circle. So all the way around this circle is 360 degrees, and you got to figure out how much of the 360 degrees to make each one of these. Okay, so guess what we're going to do? Another proportion. I'll do this one over on this side. Again, a little squished. Okay, so we can put down the 100. We can always do that. And this time we want to know 25.9% of the circle. We know the percent, so we can put 25.9 up here. Now, what's the other number that we're interested in? The other number we're interested in is the whole. We know the whole. We know all the angles in this circle here. How many degrees are in the whole circle? 360. That's the whole. So that goes down here. And the thing we don't know, which I'll call M, goes up here. We want to know what part of the 360 degrees we should do here. So how do we do that? We're going to go 25.9 times the 360 and then divide it by 100. And this time I'm just going to go to the whole number. I'm going to round to the nearest whole number. So I get 93% here. Sorry, 93 degrees here. We're figuring out degrees, right? Let's label this. This is the size of sector angle, you could say, or if you want, size of pie piece. A little more simplistic way of saying it. Okay, again, let's see if we can simplify here and not do this 5 times. So what would change in this next question? Or what would stay the same? Well, the 100 would definitely stay the same because that always stays the same. The 360 would definitely stay the same because that's how many degrees are in an entire circle. The unknown part is this, so the part that would change this time is the 25.9. You would not have 25.9 here anymore, would you? The percentage we're interested in this time is 1.4, so this would change to 1.4. So again, the only thing that would change in our actual calculation is this 25.9 would now be 1.4, and I guess I'm going to start making a big mess again. Even messier because I got all these decimals. So 1.4 times 360 divided by 100. And to the nearest whole number, I get 5. So 5 degrees. Next one, I'm going to put 40 in right here. So I get 40 times 360 divided by 100. And that gives me 144 degrees. The next one, I have to somehow get 29.1 right there. I know you can't read it, but that's 29.1 times 360 divided by 100. That one rounds up to 105 degrees. And the last one's 3.6. How could you possibly read this anymore? But this is 3.6. So 3.6 times 360 divided by 100. And that actually rounds up to 13 degrees. Okay, is there any point in adding all these up? Again, I would say yes. What do we want this to add up to? We want it to be 360. Will it be that? Well, it might not, but it better be either 359 or 361, but it can't be more than that off. So let me add them up. And I'm relieved to see it's exactly 360 degrees. I really think we're doing this right. Okay, it is time to do step number 3. You can probably guess what that is. Once we know the size of the sector angles, we need to draw each angle. You're going to use a protractor. How am I going to show this to you? I'm going to pull out my protractor. Here it is. So the first thing you want to do, you want to have the center of the circle marked. I'm sorry it's so big here. And you want to draw a line from the center to anywhere you want. Now, oftentimes they will draw the first piece in a pie graph straight up. So what the heck, I'll draw it straight up. Now what I want to do is I want to take this protractor, I'm going to turn it, and I need to put this point right there. I need to put that on that point there. Now it's a massive point, so put it right in the middle. And this line, right, that travels up to the 0, that 0 line should run right across my line there. So this point is in the middle of my circle. It runs right up like that, I would say. And our first degrees is, now you can start with the biggest one if you want, but you don't have to. I'm just going to go in order here. So I have 93 degrees. So look, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 3 more. So I'm hoping I can draw a line right now from the center, yes, to 91, 92, 93 is right there. So there's my first one. Okay, next one is 5 degrees. But you definitely have to spin this, right? We're going to spin this around, and this time we want the 0 line to travel right along this one, right? Along this line I just drew. This 0 line has to travel right along there. So let's see if I can get it. Okay, I think that's about as good as I can do it. And we're doing what? 5 degrees. Well, that's not very much. Here's 10, right? We're reading the outside here. Here's 10. So 5 is this longer line right there. That's where I'm going to draw my next line. So from the very center out through there. Wow, is that ever small? Okay, there's my 5 degrees. I got to spin this thing again. So give me a second and I'll spin it right to there. Right? We want that 0 line to travel right along the latest point, the latest line that I drew. And how much am I going this foot time? Whoa, 144 degrees. All right, let's do this. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140. There's 145, so just before that one right there. So from the center out to 144, which is right there. Okay, so I spin again. Got to make the 0 line up with my latest line. There we go. That lines up. And after 144 comes 105. So 105, 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70, 90, 100, and this long one right there is 105. So I'm going to go through that 105. And there I go. Now comes the most stressful part of all. This is where you spin it again, and you'll already have the last section, so you really hope and pray that it lines up, matches up to what you're supposed to be finding here. It says I should be getting 13 degrees. I have 11, 12, yeah, I have like 12 and a half, 13. Listen, I'm pretty satisfied with that. If you're like a degrees off or something like that, I think we've done it pretty well. You understand what I'm talking about? It's supposed to be 13 degrees, and if I read the angle in this angle right here, it's 11, 12, somewhere around 12 and 13. I think that's looking pretty good. So let's get rid of the protractor, and we're done, right? Should I stop now? Of course not. What's our last job here? The last task is to label each sector and include a title. So I guess we could put our title to start. There we go, student travel to school. All right, so the first one we did was car driven by someone else. So that was this first section right here, the first sector. So this is car driven by other, I'm going to put, driven by other person. And the next one, oh, and by the way, how much was that? You don't put the degrees, right? You put the percent. So I'm going to put 25.9%. It's nice and easy for me to fit this one in here. Now, the next one, whoops, percent. The next one is pretty hard to fit in there. It's car driven by self. That's going to be very hard to draw in there. So I think what I might do, and I could do them all different colors, I'm just going to draw a little arrow here and put car driven by self. Okay, there we go. And then the percent, remember, don't put the degree, put the percent, is 1.4%. So you could either write that right here, or I don't know, maybe it would look okay in there. No, I don't think it does. I think I'd probably move it down here. It's a bit squished in there. Maybe I'll put it right there. Nah, here. All right, next is walking 40%. So let me grab a new color here, and we have walking 40%. Walk 40%. And we next have bus 29.1%. And finally, we have the bike, right? Bike 3.6%. What do you think? Can we fit it in there? I think we can do it. 3.6%. Okay, we're done. Why does it look so blah? Because I don't have any colors. But you know what? I think I'll leave that for you guys to worry about. All right, there you go. Stop your complaining, gee whiz. Oh, it does look pretty though. I like it. All right, that's circle graphs. That's how to make them. Soon we'll talk about how to make them electronically, which kind of makes more sense, doesn't it? Take care, everyone.